King Mwanga the Great, Chapter 8. Having experienced a fire outbreak at his palace in Mengo, the king shifted to Munyonyo. However, with the time, the Mengo palace was renovated and King Mwanga II went back. His Majesty Ssemyalo Mwanga II enjoyed the lake view as well as sailing on water. He appreciated to have a lake made by man linking his palace at Mengo to Lake Victoria in Munyonyo. On that note, therefore, the king ordered for the work to begin. The lake was to cross in Leva Swamp to the stream between Chibuye and Najanankumbi. Then it was to touch parts of Luwafu, Chamula, Masajja to the main lake Victoria. It had to touch Munyonyo in one way or another. This incredible contract was put in the hands of one of the royal guards called Musoke. He diligently did the work, though he was naturally weak and slow, thus the work delayed a lot. This angered the Kabaka, who withdrew the task from Musoke and entrusted it with a great palace gladiator called Ndimukulaga. He did his best to see that the Kabaka's lake was dug. The activity involved almost everyone in Buganda Kingdom. The princes and princesses dug the lake except Princess Nasiwa, who was very old. She was a daughter to the great king of Buganda, Suna II, thus Kabaka Mwanga II's auntie. Others, including the nobles, royal guards, soldiers, county chiefs, their assistants, and all people, worked. Work kicked off very early in the morning and it took place in intervals basing on the counties of Buganda. Each county chief had to lead his people to the site, and by 4 o'clock in the morning, work started and ended at 6 o'clock in the evening. One day, it was the turn for single county to work. However, their chief Mokwenda called Chiega delayed. The work began in his absence. As the chief engineer of the work, Kagwandi Mukulaga, was inspecting, he discovered that Mokwenda Kiyega, the Saza chief, was missing. While still interrogating his assistant, Chief Kiyega showed up. Kagwandi Mukulaga promptly confronted him in front of his people why he delayed. The chief also replied arrogantly that he was holding a very important place in the kingdom, thus he could not rush anyhow. This exasperated Kagwandi Mukulaga and ordered the soldiers to immerse him in mud. The chief was highly humiliated and shouted at the top of his voice, "This nation is dead. The son of my boss, Mutesa, has killed us badly. How can a noble like me sit in mud?" When Kagwandi Mukulaga heard this, he ran directly to the king and reported how disobedient Chief Kiyega had turned. King Ssemyalo Mwanga II recalled when his father, His Majesty Mukabya Walugembe Mutesa I died. Mokwenda Kiyega never wanted Prince Mwanga to succeed the throne, for he favored Prince Kalema. King Mwanga II kept this at heart, and when Kagwandi Mukulaga reported Kiyega's actions, the king believed everything. A rope was tied around Chief Kiyega's neck and pulled like a goat, then tied on a trunk as the sunshine scorched his bald head. While Princess Nasiwa was passing by, Mokwenda Kiyega pleaded to the princess, who was terrified by the action practiced to a county chief. She ran to the king, who asked him to pardon Mokwenda Kiyega. Since King Mwanga II still hated Kiyega, he released him and ordered the royal guards to loot the Mukwenda's garden and house, then demoted him. The king issued a decree that disqualified Chief Kiyega from obtaining any important position in the kingdom. After 11 months of constant digging, the entire work suddenly ceased. It was alleged that most of the people had converted to Christianity and spent most of time with the white missionaries. This rendered the king less important in his kingdom. His advisors convened immediately for a solution. They scratched their heads for weeks, trying to figure something. The king wondered what the whites had promised to his people that made them defy. He might have been rude, but not worse than some of the former kings. It was in glass that the foreigners had a big plot against him. Fear conquered the nerves of generals, nobles, and ministers. They were afraid of the white man, for he had swept away many kingdoms in Africa. At the same time, the white man feared King Ssemyalo Mwanga II. He was so difficult to understand. This is the man who had shown his people that the white man was not God and could die by a mere handicap. In addition, the missionaries never forgot about what Kabaka had done to Bishop James Huntington. The king's people also knew the consequences of disobedience, for they had seen it happen years back. On both sides, suspicion intensified. The wise men at the palace suggested that the situation required checking. It would be simple by collecting all the converts together and starve them to death from Nsaz Island on Lake Victoria, because they believed that after killing James Huntington, the Europeans were about to revitalize and attack the kingdom at once with the help of his subjects. Kabaka Mwanga II saw it wise and liked the notable's suggestion. The king chose to execute the mission on 2nd August 1888. However, things did not go as expected because the converts had learned about the king's ploy. In addition, the above showed another sign. There was a radical group in the kingdom led by Brigadier Sebata, who stayed at Mutundwe. This clique was responsible for castrating men whom they believed to be disobedient. By this time, many of the king's people were fed up of the king's actions and yearned for a revolution. This happened on 10th September 1888 when Kabaka Ssemyalo Mwanga II was forced to abdicate the throne by his own people. This was the first revolution of its kind in Uganda, in which the peasants stood up with one voice and overthrew His Majesty the King of Uganda. Overthrowing kings existed in Uganda, but was usually among the royalists and at times involved massive bloodshed. But for Mwanga the second's case, the common people were the majority. This was put on the activities of the foreigners who had not only taught the converts religion but also other disciplines like civics, history, science, literacy, and others. Following the dethronement of King Mwanga II, the Baganda suggested the crown prince as Kalema on the throne. However, he was still in prison, and those sent to rescue him landed on Prince Mutebi Kiwewa, whom they took. The royal drum Jaguzo sounded from Lubaga Hill that Prince Mutebi Kiwewa was the new king of Uganda, and Nyonyintono became his prime minister. When King Mwanga II saw no supportive response from the royal guards to help him fight back, he ran to Bulingugwe Island, from where he shifted to Bukumbi in Tanganyika, present-day Tanzania, to the French missionaries who had left Uganda.